Department of Justice.
That we will identify you, we will unmask you, and
Who's the Department of Justice referring to here? A Russian cybercriminal with a $5 million bounty, the highest ever placed by the FBI. Meet Maxim Yakubets, a man who stole over $100 million from banks, institutions, and even schools, using multiple powerful malware packages, all under the guise of his company, Evil Corp. Now, here's the wild part. Most of Yakubets' victims were in the US and the UK, but Russia refuses to extradite its citizens, and since he hasn't committed any crimes against Russians, authorities have no legal reason to go after him. Authorities believe he has high-level connections within the Russian government, protecting him from prosecution and making him practically untouchable. But is that really the full story? Let's uncover the truth behind Maxim Yakubets and his global cybercrime empire. Let's go through this case in a chronological order to assess the magnitude of Evil Corp's criminal empire. Firstly, let's take a look at Maxim Yakubets' background. The Yakubets family were no strangers to financial crime. Victor Yakubets, father of Maxim, had a history of money laundering. So, Maxim took his family business into the 21st century by branching into cybercrime and bringing his father, brother Artem, and cousins Kryl and Dmitry Slobodskoy along with him. Maxim Yakubets began his career in cybercrime around 2007, just at the age of 20. Around 2009, Yakubets also started working with other cybercriminals, including Evgeny Bogachev and Vitaly Kovalev, to deploy malware with malicious intent. They were responsible for the distribution of the Zeus, Jabberzeus, and Game Over Zeus malware schemes. Operating under the name Aqua, the group's Jabberzeus malware drained funds directly from the bank's accounts of victims. They were highly organized and invested a huge amount of resources in professionalizing their business, usually by managing money mule networks, trading in cryptocurrency, setting up front companies, and employing lawyers. Their ability to maximize the proceeds of their cybercrime is what made them highly successful. They worked from Moscow cafes, employing dozens of people to rinse victims in 43 countries using viruses that are designed not to target anyone from Russia. Maxim was the leader of the group, making all the important decisions and keeping a firm grip on their activities. He was careful about exposing different group members to different areas of the business, even keeping some work details secret from his wife. Overall, their movements were covered. Hence, Yakubets continued branching out. A group of Russian-speaking cybercriminals, including Maxim and Kovalev, came together to form the BC Cybercrime Group. He placed a lot of trust in his long-term associate and second-in-command, Alexander Ryzenkov, who also became a part of the business club. The BC specialized in bank transfer fraud in the UK. Hence, Yakubets and Ryzenkov's partnership endured, and they worked together on a number of prolific ransomware strains. Maxim worked with Ryzenkov and other members of the business to create the malware they would chiefly be known for. It was the Dridex Bugat malware specifically designed to steal banking credentials. According to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the original version of Dridex first appeared in 2012, and by 2015 had become one of the most prevalent financial Trojans. It became one of the most successful banking malware strains to date. The group set up the domain ev17core.biz to coordinate their operations and attacks.
They named their company Evil Corp.
And hence, this is how the Evil Corp was born. Just like the current RAAS models, Evil Corp segmented and rented out the Dridex botnet to their affiliates who could use it for their own cyber operations. In 2014 alone, Dridex operators were sending 15,000 spam emails each day in an attempt to infect victims' devices, mainly in the US and the UK. This aggressive spam campaign resulted in tens of millions of dollars in losses in both countries. The members of Evil Corp specifically targeted financial services sector organizations located in the United States and the United Kingdom. According to the Treasury, by 2016, Evil Corp had harvested banking credentials from customers at approximately 300 banks and financial institutions in over 40 countries, making the group one of the main financial threats faced by businesses. Dridex is said to have led to £20 million being stolen from the UK alone. They were assisted in some cases by money mules who funneled the stolen funds through US bank accounts before shipping the money overseas. The group stole or extorted tens of millions of dollars from their victims. Yakubets and his co-conspirators did not discriminate in their choice of targets. For example, the Nebraska complaint alleges that Yakubets was directly involved in the theft of tens of thousands of dollars from a religious order of Franciscan sisters. Among those affected was a Pennsylvania school district that saw $999,000 wired out of its accounts, and an oil company that had lost more than $2 million. Through their use of the Dridex malware, Evil Corp has illicitly earned at least $100 million, though it is likely that the total of their illicit proceeds is significantly higher. In mid-2017, Evil Corp started to deploy other types of new ransomware called BitPaymer. It spread through fake emails or phishing, weak remote desktop connections, or other malware. Once successfully inside a system, it moved through the network, encrypting files and locking them with a special code. Victims would then receive a ransom note demanding Bitcoin payments, sometimes reaching millions of dollars, especially when big companies or government offices were targeted. BitPaymer was behind major attacks, like the 2018 Scottish hospital hack and U.S. city government breaches in 2019. A newer version called Doppelpaymer was also used in large cyber attacks. To stay safe, businesses had to use strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, update software regularly, train employees to spot phishing scams, and back up important files to avoid losing data. Most of their targets were either high-value or high-profile organizations. Many sources reported that by 2017, Yakubets was working for the Russian Federal Security Service, one of Russia's leading intelligence organizations. He provided material assistance to the FSB and was tasked to work on projects for the Russian state to acquire confidential documents through cyber-enabled means and conducting cyber-enabled operations on its behalf. Though he's safe in his own country, if Yakubets ever leaves the safety of Russia, he will be arrested and extradited to the U.S. Let's take a brief look at his lavish lifestyle. Yakubets is reportedly seen driving his $200,000 worth Lamborghini with a custom license plate that reads Thief, and spinning circles with his car right in front of Moscow's police. He's also splurged out on pet tigers and lion cubs, going on SPA vacations that cost up to 1 million rubles a week. His wedding to Eduard Bedernsky's daughter, the ex-FSB officer in 2017, is rumored to have cost a minimum of $300,000. A Moscow-based caramel wedding service even flooded the internet with footage from the extravagant celebration. His bride poses in many pictures, yet Yakubets was strategically turned away from the lens. It's likely that through his father-in-law, Eduard Bedernsky, the cybercrime gang deepened their relationship with Russia's intelligence services, the FSB, SVR, and GRU. Bedernsky previously worked for the FSB's secretive Vimpel unit, which is close to the Kremlin and likely responsible for protecting the group. Sometime before COVID, a dispute happened between Maxim and a major member of the Evil Corp, Igor Turyshev. The altercation began in mid-2019, but worsened by December 2019. This led to the group getting divided, leading to Turyshev heading the development of Doppelpaymer ransomware. Though Doppelpaymer first came into action in 2019, it continued infecting organizations through 2020. By 2023, Igor Turyshev was wanted by the German authorities for his involvement in Doppelpaymer ransomware. The remaining Evil Corp group, led by Yakubets and Ryzenkov, began developing a new ransomware that would later become Wasted Locker. Several law enforcement and government operations have taken place to disrupt the group since its formation, most notably in the form of sanctions and indictments in December 2019. As a result, the group have been forced to scrap their modus operandi and attempt new tactics to evade the scrutiny and restrictions put on them. Characterized by their adaptability and close links with the Russian state, Evil Corp has proved a persistent threat for over a decade, and members continue to operate within the Russian Federation. However, by late 2019, their success and influence in the cybercrime ecosystem started to dwindle. The U.S. Treasury Office for Foreign Assets Control indicted Evil Corp. The U.S. Department of Justice also announced their indictments. On December 5th, 2019, an FBI press release announced charges against Maxim Yakubets and Igor Turyshev. Although the realm is a digital one, this is one of the world's largest organized crime groups, said FBI Supervisor Special Agent Adam Lawson of the Major Cybercrimes Unit. They are personally getting rich, and new organizations and individuals are being victimized every day. The State Department has also announced a reward of up to $5 million, the largest offered bounty to date for a cybercrime suspect, for providing information that could lead to the arrest of Yakubets, who remains at large. Yakubets allegedly has engaged in a decade-long cybercrime spree that deployed two of the most damaging pieces of financial malware ever used, and resulted in tens of millions of dollars of losses to victims worldwide, said Brian A. Bezenkowski, Assistant Attorney General of DOJ's Criminal Division. Evil Corp has been alleged to have victimized 21 specific municipalities, private companies, banks, and nonprofit organizations in California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Ohio, Texas, Washington, Iowa, Kentucky, Maine, New Mexico, and North Carolina, including multiple entities in Nebraska and a religious congregation. Yakubets is a true 21st century criminal who, with the stroke of a key and the click of a mouse, committed cybercrimes across the globe. Former Assistant Attorney General Brian Bezenkowski said in 2019, these developments significantly affected the cyber group's operations. Evil Corp was forced to transform their modus operandi in an attempt to try and cover their tracks and activities. They switched to another tool called cybercriminal. The group began working more secretively. They abandoned their online accounts and started restricting their movements as compared to how they previously displayed their victories. But despite these attempts at evading the authorities, a new ransomware strain by the name of Wasted Locker was traced back to Evil Corp. Wasted Locker was the major ransomware deployed in mid-2020. Evil Corp continued to develop new ransomware strains. They developed and deployed new ransomware strains called Hades, Phoenix Locker, Payload Bin, and Macaw. All these strains shared a similar codebase. The use of Phoenix Locker resulted in a $40 million ransomware payment, which was the largest ever recorded at the time. It is suspected that many original members parted ways from the group but are still operating in Russia, though the remaining members got further involved in deploying more ransomware strains. Most of these activities were recorded during 2022. These included Lockbit and the continued use of Skogolish. NCA has determined that Yakubets' right-hand man, Alexander Ryzenkov, is likely an affiliate of Lockbit and has also been involved in Lockbit ransomware attacks against multiple organizations. Lockbit ransomware was disrupted by a NCA-led international law enforcement takedown in February 2024 under Operation Kronos. To date, Yakubet is a free man, enjoying the fruits of his criminal empire under the protection of all three major Russian intelligence agencies. He's roaming free in Russia, and he's not in prison, and Russia is taking no steps to arrest him, said Irina Tuckersman, a geopolitical analyst specializing in cybersecurity in 2022. Location of these individuals is known to the authorities, and it could be easy to arrest them, throw them in prison, or make them disappear. But they are serving their Kremlin's purpose, and there's an apparent intentional plan structure to everything that's happening, Tuckersman said. Russia has had a history of directing cybercriminals to conduct malicious cyber activity or using malware strains for espionage purposes. For example, in 2017, 2 Russian FSB officers were indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice for directing criminal hackers to compromise 500 million Yahoo accounts. Another notable Russian cybercriminal, Vitaly Kovalev, who was sanctioned by the UK and US governments in 2023 for his senior role in the TrickBot cybercrime group, also had a relationship with the Russian intelligence services. Evil Corp's story is a prime example of the evolving threat posed by cybercriminals and ransomware operators. In their case, the activities of the Russian state played a particularly significant role, sometimes even co-opting the cybercriminal group for its own malicious cyber activity. Born out of elite cybercriminals coming together, Evil Corp's sophisticated business model made them one of the most pervasive and persistent cybercriminals to date. As of 2024, further action taken against Evil Corp by the United Kingdom, United States, and Australian governments proves their attempts have not gone unnoticed and will not go unchallenged. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to Breakout Bank for more videos.